Have they at least established some better systems than our universal suffrage, direct and indirect? What have they discovered after 36 years of experience, of criticisms, of doctrines, and polished pleadings? They have found a sense to be eligible and a sense to be an elector. That is to say, to combine the interests of the proprietors and the non-proprietors. And they flatter themselves that in excluding from the forum the majority of the nation to have triumphed over the difficulty, they have done nothing but thus perpetuate the trouble and discontentment. And that state of sickly transition has no other term possible than electoral reform. Some adversaries of the lists of notables, a Brumaire, has said that these lists disinherited the people, but 6 millions of men voted them in the primary assemblies, and they delegated only, but in a limited manner, a part of their right of suffrage to 600,000 notables, electors, and candidates of the universality of the French people. And now it is not the universality, but only a part of the population, which scarcely names 200,000 electors. Our system of notability was then far more popular than all your electoral systems. The Senate, they say, chose the high functionaries and the deputies. That prerogative was but momentary. It was to diminish and expire as soon as the people were accustomed and had an affection for the exercise of those rights of election. Such was the panacea. The universal suffrage direct was to extend with favorable circumstances. In short, that the Republican manners taking root amongst us, the primary assemblies, or at least the notables of the communes, could have named progressively the functionaries of the district and the department. As for the deputies, we left for a time their choice to the Senate, that the legislative authority in the first age of the consular charter was reserved for the men equally opposed to royalism and democracy. The choice of the Senate could not, moreover, fall but upon the notables of the department, that is to say, upon the candidates of the people. But with time, the right of electing the deputies might pass successively from the Senate to the 6,000 notables of the departments, and then to the 60,000 notables of the districts, then at length to the 600,000 notables of the communes. The people, moreover, even at the beginning of the organization, exercised really a universal censure upon all the public functionaries, which modified wisely the right of delegation of the diverse degrees of notability, as well as the temporary prerogative of the Senate. An important consideration which has passed away amidst us almost unperceived. In fact, every 3 years the primary assemblies renewed the lists of 600,000 communal notables. The public functions could only be filled by those who were maintained upon those lists. It followed that every Frenchman had not only the right of direct suffrage in his commune, but that he had also every 3 years the right of direct censure upon the public men of all degrees. We have already said that the great concessions made to the democracy would be progressively increased, but such as they were, it was still an immense progress. It was a political liberty superior to that of the Constitution of the year 3 and many other constitutions. Thus, if I may be permitted to repeat it, 6 millions of citizens, naming in a direct manner the functionaries of the communes, choosing 600,000 notables, all at the same time electors and candidates for the other functions, and every Frenchman whose name was not preserved upon those triennial lists of popular candidates became ineligible for all magistrature. Thus, the question of the universal suffrage applied to a great and old society was decided in the most satisfactory manner. I hope that the constitutional future, which approaches for all the people, will appreciate better than our contemporaries have done that wise institution of our great civilian, in France, above all, in political education. It has made too great a progress for some years past for the electoral reform not to bring about very shortly the universal voting of several degrees. Fourth, unremovable chamber, personal aristocracy, senatorial absorption. The chamber which represents the necessity of stability should be unremovable. The maintenance of the existing order being especially confided, it must be at all times powerful, and more powerful after a popular revolution where the opinions, having impetuously wandered even to the end of the democratical descent, have far outmarched the point where they should have stopped. Immediately after these profound struggles, the legislator, to reorganize society, should give a motion to the conservative power, in action so much the greater, the power being in momentary discredit. That action can only spring from the attribution given it by the Constitution, or from great riches, the influence of which may, to a certain point, make up for the law. We are not ignorant that a magistrature of great proprietors, without being hereditary, as it ought to be in a moderate monarchy, but only during life, and seated upon a very high raised sense, would have been a good combination for the high chamber of our republic. There were no longer in France but very few great proprietors, and they were almost all of them hostile to the new regime. That element of order not being at our disposal, we could not supply it but in augmenting the attributions of the conservative body. This is the reason why C has proposed to confide so much power to the Senate, the sanction of the laws, the nomination of the senators and consuls, and the supreme right of absorbing the consuls was to form the permanent attribution of the unremovable chamber. The election of the deputies and the high functionaries was its provisory attribution. So much authority was not more than was requisite for this patriciate of the republic during life, which might resist the executive power always invading, and to the democratic chamber still very quiet. Nevertheless, that patrician magistrature sprang also from the popular election, sole source of legitimate powers, since its members, like the consuls, were taken exclusively in the list of the 6,000 notables of the departments, to which every Frenchman might arrive by the confidence alone of his fellow citizens. The senators were also ineligible for every other public function, that they might not have any personal advantage to expect from the government.